When it comes to money, most people don't realize that the way they think about it is the very thing holding them back. It's not just about working harder or making more or even cutting expenses. It starts with what you believe. You see, every single financial decision you've made up until this moment has been influenced by your mindset. And if your mindset is stuck in scarcity, if you're always telling yourself there's not enough, that money is stressful, that money is complicated, you are programming yourself to stay stuck. The very first habit you must build if you want to transform your relationship with money is shifting from scarcity to abundance thinking. Think about it. How many times have you said to yourself, "I can't afford that," or "I'll never make enough," or "That's just for rich people"? These aren't just words. They are mental commands that direct your brain to shut down opportunities. When you tell yourself you can't afford something, your brain stops searching for solutions. But when you shift the language, when you ask instead, "How can I afford this?" or "What steps could I take to make this happen?" your brain gets to work. It starts looking for possibilities, options, strategies. That simple shift from shutting down to opening up changes everything. Abundance thinking isn't about ignoring reality or pretending you have money you don't. It's about training yourself to see opportunities where others only see limitations. For example, someone with a scarcity mindset looks at their paycheck and says, "This is all I've got. I can't do more." Someone with an abundance mindset looks at the same paycheck and says, "Okay, this is where I'm starting, but how can I grow this? What skills can I learn? What side income can I create? What can I invest in?" One mindset builds walls, the other builds doors. Here's what I need you to understand. Money flows where focus goes. If you're focused on fear, on lack, on what you don't have, you will always feel like there isn't enough. But if you focus on possibility, on learning, on growth, you begin to attract solutions and strategies that were invisible to you before. It's not magic, it's how your brain works. The reticular activating system in your brain filters what you pay attention to. If you tell yourself you're broke, your brain filters the world through that belief. If you tell yourself, "I am capable of creating wealth," your brain starts finding proof of that statement. I'll give you an example. Imagine you're looking to buy a new car. The moment you decide on the model, suddenly you see it everywhere. It's not that there are more of those cars, it's that your brain is now tuned to notice them. The same is true with money. When you shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance, you begin to notice opportunities, connections, and ideas that were already there but hidden from you. But here's the challenge. Scarcity thinking is deeply ingrained. Most of us grew up hearing things like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "Rich people are greedy." Without even realizing it, you internalize beliefs that limit you. To build a true money mindset, you have to question those old stories. Ask yourself, where did I learn to think this way about money? Do I want to keep carrying those beliefs, or do I want to replace them with ones that empower me? Abundance thinking doesn't mean reckless spending. It means believing there's always another way forward. It means training yourself to look for growth, to expect opportunities, and to take action when they appear. And the truth is, the people who build wealth aren't always the smartest or the luckiest. They're the ones who decided to believe it was possible for them. They're the ones who kept asking, "How can I?" instead of shutting themselves down with, "I can't." So if you're serious about transforming your financial life, start with this first habit. Every time you catch yourself thinking from scarcity, whether it's stressing about bills, panicking over expenses, or feeling jealous of someone else's success, pause and reframe. Replace "I can't" with "How can I?" Replace "there's not enough" with "there's always a way." At first, it will feel uncomfortable. That's normal. But with practice, it becomes your default mode of thinking. And when your mind opens up, opportunities open up. Your money mindset is the foundation. Without it, no amount of saving, investing, or earning will stick. With it, you create the confidence and creativity to build a financial future you actually want. And it all begins with shifting from scarcity to abundance. That's where your power starts. If you want to build a powerful money mindset, one of the most important habits you can adopt is paying yourself first. And I know you've probably heard that phrase before, but most people don't actually understand the discipline behind it. Let me break it down for you. Paying yourself first means that before you spend a single dollar on bills, on groceries, on Netflix, on shopping, or on anything else, you take a portion of your income and put it toward your future. That might be savings, investments, or even a fund for building a business. The point is, you treat your financial growth as the first priority, not the leftover. Here's the truth. Most people do it backward. They get their paycheck, they cover all the bills, they spend on wants and needs, and then if anything is left over, they think about saving. But let's be honest. How often is there anything left over? Almost never. That's why so many people live paycheck to paycheck, not because they don't make enough money, but because they haven't created the discipline of prioritizing themselves. If you don't pay yourself first, you are putting your future last. Now, you might be thinking, but I can barely cover my expenses. How could I possibly save or invest first? That's exactly the mindset we need to challenge. It's not about the amount, it's about the habit. Even if all you can put aside is 1% or 2% of what you earn, you're building a muscle. You're teaching yourself that your financial future matters. And just like going to the gym, it's not the size of the weight you lift. On day one that transforms you, it's the consistency of showing up. Let me give you an example. Imagine you start with just $10 a week. That's not a lot. Most people spend that on coffee without even thinking about it. But over time, $10 turns into $40 a month, which becomes almost $500 a year. And if you invest that money instead of just letting it sit, compound growth turns those small amounts into something powerful. What matters most is not the number, it's that you've built the habit of treating yourself like the most important bill you'll ever pay. There's also a psychological shift that happens when you pay yourself first. You start to feel in control. You stop feeling like money is slipping through your fingers. You build confidence because you're actively creating a financial cushion. That confidence builds momentum, and momentum builds freedom. And that's what we're really after here. Freedom. Think about it like this. Every time you pay yourself first, you're buying back a piece of your future. You're giving your future self options. Options to travel, options to take risks, options to retire earlier, options to walk away from something toxic without worrying how you'll survive. Money at its core is freedom. And the habit of paying yourself first is how you start creating that freedom today. And here's something most people don't talk about. When you don't pay yourself first, you are actually reinforcing the belief that you're not worthy of wealth. Every time you tell yourself, I'll save later, you're saying my future doesn't matter. But when you flip the script, when you decide that before anyone else gets paid, you get paid, you're declaring to yourself that your future is a priority. That shift in identity is what separates people who stay stuck financially from those who grow. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be easy. The first few times, it will feel uncomfortable. You'll think, what if I need that money for bills? But this is where you train yourself to be resourceful. When you put your future first, you find ways to manage everything else. It forces you to think smarter about your spending. It forces you to cut unnecessary expenses. It forces you to ask, do I really need this or do I want it? Paying yourself first is not just about saving. It's about rewiring how you make decisions with money. Here's what I want you to do. The next time you get paid, before you pay a single bill, before you swipe your card, set aside something. Even if it's just 1%, do it automatically if you can. Set up a transfer that moves money straight into savings or an investment account the moment your paycheck lands. Because if you wait until the end of the month, I promise, you'll talk yourself out of it. Automate it so it's not even up for debate. Over time, you'll be able to increase that percentage. Maybe it's 5%, then 10%, then 20%. The number doesn't matter as much as the consistency. What matters is that you've shifted the order. You've made yourself the priority. And when you make yourself the priority, your financial future transforms. Paying yourself first is the cornerstone of wealth. It's how you stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming the architect of your future. And once you build this habit, you'll realize that wealth is not built in huge leaps. It's built in consistent, disciplined steps. This is one of those steps. If you truly want to build a strong money mindset, you have to treat financial education the same way you treat brushing your teeth or working out. It has to be something you do every single day, not once in a while. Not when you're in trouble, not when you feel like it, but daily. Because here's the reality. Money is a language, and most people were never taught how to speak it. You went to school, you learned math, history, science, but nobody sat you down and said, here's how compound interest works, here's how taxes affect your paycheck, here's how to invest, here's how to build wealth. And because you were never taught, you might have grown up believing money was complicated, overwhelming, even intimidating. But the truth is, money is just a skill. And like any skill, you can learn it. Think about it. If you wanted to get in shape, you wouldn't go to the gym once a month and expect results. You'd make exercise a habit. You'd commit to eating better every day, not once in a while. The same principle applies to money. Reading one book or watching one YouTube video isn't going to change your life. But if you dedicate 10 or 15 minutes every day to learning something new about money, over time, that knowledge compounds. Just like investing, money compounds. Investing in your mind compounds too. Here's the difference it makes. When you don't educate yourself about money, you operate from fear. You avoid opening your bank app because you don't want to see the balance. You avoid conversations about investing because it feels too complex. You let other people make decisions for you, and most of the time, those decisions don't serve you. But when you commit to financial education, you replace fear with clarity. You understand the terms. You know how to ask the right questions. You stop being passive and start being proactive. And that shift in confidence is everything. Now, don't overcomplicate this. Financial education doesn't mean getting a degree in economics or becoming a Wall Street expert. It means building small, simple habits that grow your financial intelligence. It might be listening to a money podcast on your commute, reading a chapter of a personal finance book before bed, following someone who shares investment strategies, or even practicing with a budgeting app. The point is, you're putting money into your mental diet every single day. Here's why this matters. Opportunities show up for people who are prepared. If you don't know the basics of investing, you'll miss the chance to grow your money when an opportunity comes. If you don't understand how credit works, you'll bury yourself in debt without realizing it. If you don't know how to negotiate, you'll keep accepting less than you're worth. Education doesn't just give you knowledge, it gives you leverage. It positions you to recognize and act on opportunities that could change your life. And let me say this, you don't need to spend hours every day on this. Start small. Commit to 5 minutes. 5 minutes of reading about investing. 5 minutes of listening to someone who's already financially free. 5 minutes of learning one new strategy to manage your money better. Do that every day. And before you know it, you'll have accumulated hours and hours of learning that shape how you think, act, and decide with money. What's even more powerful is that financial education changes your identity. At first, you might think, I'm just someone who struggles with money. But when you consistently study and apply what you learn, you start to see yourself differently. You start thinking, I'm someone who understands money. I'm someone who makes smart decisions. I'm someone who can build wealth. And when your identity shifts, your behavior shifts with it. Here's the truth. Ignorance is expensive. Not knowing how money works costs you opportunities, costs you peace of mind, and costs you years of potential growth. But knowledge pays dividends forever. The more you know, the more confident you become, and the more confident you become, the more action you take. And action is what actually builds wealth. So starting today, I want you to treat financial education as non-negotiable. Pick up that book, listen to that podcast, watch that video, join that community, make it part of your daily routine. Because the best investment you will ever make is not in the stock market or in real estate or in crypto, it's in your own mind. And once you develop the habit of educating yourself about money every day, you'll stop seeing money as something stressful and start seeing it as something you can master. That's how you build the mindset that creates freedom. One of the most underrated habits when it comes to building a powerful money mindset is learning to detach emotions from money decisions. For most people, money isn't just numbers on a screen or paper in a wallet. It's tied up with fear, shame, guilt, pride, and even self-worth. And when you allow emotions to drive your financial decisions, you end up sabotaging yourself. Money at its core is math. It doesn't care about your feelings. 2 plus 2 is always 4, no matter how you feel about it. Yet, we constantly let our emotions cloud the numbers. Think about the times you've made emotional purchases. Maybe you were stressed out and you bought something online just to feel better. Maybe you were trying to impress people, so you spent money you didn't have. Or maybe you've avoided looking at your bank account because it makes you anxious, so you pretend it doesn't exist. These are emotional decisions, and they don't move you forward. They keep you stuck. The problem isn't the money. It's the story you attach to it. Detaching emotions from money doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop letting fear or impulse make the choices for you. It's shifting from reactive to strategic. For example, instead of thinking, I feel broke, so I'll never have enough, you look at the actual numbers and ask, what do I need to adjust to make this work? Instead of swiping your card because you want the quick hit of dopamine, you pause and ask, does this purchase align with my long-term goals? It's about stepping back and separating the facts from the feelings. Here's what happens when you don't. Fear convinces you to hoard money instead of investing, so your money never grows. Guilt convinces you to lend money you can't afford to lose, leaving you resentful and financially strained. Impulsiveness convinces you to spend now and worry later, which creates debt and stress. But when you detach emotions, you gain clarity. You can make money decisions based on logic, values, and long-term vision, instead of whatever emotion happens to show up in the moment. A powerful way to practice this is by creating a system. Systems protect you from yourself. If you know you tend to overspend when you're stressed, automate your savings so that money is already out of reach before the temptation hits. If you know you make impulsive choices with credit cards, switch to cash for certain categories. If you know fear keeps you from investing, commit to a small, automatic contribution every month so you don't have to think about it. The system makes the decision for you, and emotions don't get a vote. Another step is awareness. Start noticing the patterns in your behavior. Do you spend more when you're bored? Do you avoid looking at bills because you feel overwhelmed? Do you use money as a way to prove something to others? Once you identify the triggers, you can interrupt them. Instead of saying, I feel bad, so I'm going to buy something, you can say, I feel bad, so I'm going to go for a walk or call a friend. By breaking the link between emotions and money, you take back control. And let's talk about self-worth here, because this is big. Too many people attach their value to how much money they have or don't have. If they're broke, they feel like a failure. If they're wealthy, they feel like they're better than others. Both mindsets are toxic. Your worth as a human being has nothing to do with the number in your bank account. Money is a tool. It's not who you are. When you separate your identity from your finances, you free yourself to make smarter choices. You stop taking it personally when things don't go as planned, and you stop chasing money for validation. This habit is not about becoming cold or robotic with money. It's about becoming calm and rational. Imagine being able to look at your finances without panic, without guilt, without shame, just clarity. Imagine making decisions not because you're scared, but because you're strategic. That's what detaching emotions looks like. It doesn't mean you won't feel things about money. You're human. Of course you will. But it means the feelings don't drive the decision. The moment you understand that money is neutral, you unlock a new level of freedom. Money doesn't care about your background, your mistakes, or your fears. It responds to behavior, not emotion. So the next time you're about to make a money decision, pause. Ask yourself, am I reacting to how I feel, or am I responding to the facts? That single pause could save you from years of regret. When you build this habit, you stop living in reaction to money, and you start using money as a tool to design your life. That's how you create not just wealth, but peace. If you want to truly transform your money mindset, you cannot ignore the influence of the people around you. Your environment is shaping your financial behavior every single day, whether you realize it or not. The truth is, habits are contagious. Attitudes are contagious. Mindsets are contagious. If you spend most of your time around people who complain about being broke, who believe rich people are greedy, who spend recklessly without thinking, then those patterns will rub off on you. It doesn't matter how motivated you feel in the moment. If your environment is constantly pulling you backward, you'll struggle to make real progress. That's why one of the most powerful habits you can build is surrounding yourself with growth-minded people. Growth-minded people think differently about money. They don't see it as something evil or out of reach. They see it as a tool, a resource, something that can be grown, managed, and used for impact. They talk about opportunities instead of problems. They focus on solutions instead of excuses. And when you're in that kind of environment, it challenges you to raise your standards. Suddenly, conversations shift from gossip to goals, from complaining about bills to talking about investments, from comparing struggles to sharing strategies. And that changes you because you rise to the level of the people you spend the most time with. Think about your current circle. Do they push you to think bigger, or do they keep you small? Do they celebrate your growth, or do they make you feel guilty for wanting more? If the people around you are constantly reinforcing a scarcity mindset, it becomes almost impossible to build an abundance mindset. It's like trying to run with weights tied to your legs. But when you intentionally put yourself around people who are disciplined, ambitious, and forward-thinking, it pulls you forward, even on days you feel like slacking. Now, this doesn't mean you cut everyone out of your life. It means you become intentional about who gets the most access to your energy. Maybe your family doesn't understand your goals. Maybe your friends are still stuck in their old patterns. That's okay. You don't have to judge them or argue with them, but you do have to protect your mindset. That might mean spending less time in negative conversations and more time in communities that align with where you're going. It could be networking events, mastermind groups, online communities, or even podcasts and books that expose you to people who think differently. The point is, you control the inputs. And when the inputs change, your mindset changes. Here's the thing. Being around growth-minded people doesn't just inspire you, it normalizes success. If you've never seen someone build wealth in real life, it might feel impossible for you. But when you start spending time with people who are doing it, you realize they're not superhuman. They're just consistent. They make different choices. And when you're exposed to that consistently, you start believing if they can do it, so can I. That belief alone can shift everything. Surrounding yourself with the right people also keeps you accountable. It's easy to talk about financial goals in your head, but when you share them with people who are serious about growth, you feel a new level of responsibility to follow through. You don't want to be the one in the group who makes excuses. You want to be the one who takes action. That accountability can be the difference between staying stuck in the same place for years or finally breaking through. And let's not forget about energy. Money is tied to energy more than you think. Negative, draining environments keep you in a cycle of stress and scarcity. Positive, encouraging environments expand your creativity and resourcefulness. When you're around people who believe in growth, You feel energized to take action. That energy fuels momentum, and momentum is what builds results. If right now you feel like you don't have access to growth-minded people in your personal life, don't use that as an excuse. Start with what you can control. Read books from successful people. Listen to their podcasts. Watch their interviews. Follow them on social media. Immerse yourself in their mindset until you naturally start thinking like them. Eventually, as you shift, you'll attract more of those people into your life. Like attracts like. The bottom line is this: you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. If you want to build wealth, if you want to master your money mindset, then you have to choose carefully who you allow into your circle. Be around people who challenge you, who inspire you, who force you to think bigger. Because the truth is, success doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in environments that push you to grow.